Hey, you're tuning in again with Savannah and Shani from Shalid. So welcome. So nice to see each of you. So today we are going to be talking about
the different senses. And by senses we mean like clairvoyance, claircognizance, and quite a few others.
Yeah. So there are different modalities of how we pick up information and how other people are able to pick up information.
I think we're going to talk about the different modalities, and then everybody, we have different experiences with those different modalities and how we work with them.
Yeah. So we'll still, and these are all connected with our different senses. Mm-hmm. So seeing, smelling, touch, knowing. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with clairaudience. So that's about what we hear. And I was just telling Savannah recently, just in the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing music. Like, clairaudience for me has not been that strong. Once in a while I'll hear things, but clairaudience really, like I've been driving in my car and, you know, no radio on, nothing, and I'm hearing music and as I'm driving down the highway. So I'm like, what is this? What's going on? What is this? What's this trying to tell me? What do I need to pay attention to? Mm-hmm. So whenever like something comes to me, I'm like, oh, I really want to be super aware of what's going on. Like who's trying to get attention, my attention, and try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I'll keep you abreast of what I as I follow this about them hearing the music.
Yeah. I'm interested too now. Like,
yeah.
What's gonna come from it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next one is clairvoyance, and this is a strong one for me. And I would say like my main sense that I have, and that's the sense of sight. So I can see spirit, I can see at times like auras, and that's my strongest modality. And I think for me, I think when most people are like, oh, you can see spirits, for me it's like, it's not how like I would see you. If you were to walk into a room, you can see somebody walk into a room. For me, it's not like that. For me, it's almost like a projection of a person. And it's not like a solid, it's like when you think about your family member, when you're just kind of thinking about them and remembering them, that's how I can see, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm like, is that a good way to explain it?
I understood.
Yeah. So that's what clairvoyance is. And again, my strongest modality, and Shani's had some experience with that one. We'll let her kind of touch on that a little bit.
Let's see. Oh, gosh, it's been maybe 7 years ago or so. My stepdad, who we called Papa, died. And so I was getting up early to go to my trainer. I opened my car door and this whole rush of energy came out. And I'm like, okay. So I'm always like doing an assessment. Like, is this helpful energy or not helpful energy? Yep, it was helpful energy. So I pulled into the driver's seat, and I turned to look at the passenger seat, and there was Papa. So he transitioned when he was, I think, 94, so 92. He was older. But what he was showing me was that he was like about 60 and dapper, and he, you know, really showed me he had these fun clothes on, you know, really nice clothes. And he was really saying to me, you know, I'm doing okay. And then he had 3 messages for myself. One, he wanted to work with me and do this work on the other side. I'm like, cool, we can do this. He wanted to make sure that I let my mom know that he's doing well. Yeah, so that was one time that it was so clairvoyant, like he was right there, like I could see him. So that was fun.
I think too, I want to add just before we move on to the next one, but for me, it's really fun when we're working with families or we're doing readings for people who've passed away. And sometimes we'll get like these random people that will come into our reading, and I don't know who they are, but I know what they look like, and I can explain what they look like, and that kind of is like, oh, that's my aunt, or that's my cousin, or my brother, and I'm able to see kind of what age they are, and again, they present themselves kind of, I think, how they want to be maybe remembered, or how they feel most comfortable, and so the ages always range, and, you know, I always know when I'm working with kids, and working with elders, or things that are not kind of this realm, and we'll touch on that later. Because you're probably like, what do you mean not of this realm, not of this world? What do you mean they don't look human? There's so much to dig into with clairvoyance. But we got more.
Yeah. So the next one we'll talk about is claircognizance. So this is my dominance. Like, I just have a knowing. So Savannah and I were working, we were doing a land building healing in this big old warehouse. And I think that's where this was, Savannah. And, you know, like, so I use my body as kind of like a beacon. Like, when I'm doing land and building healings, I just let my body go to where it's going to go. I just walk to wherever. And Savannah said, like, I just went over to this corner. I just knew there was stuff there. And Savannah said, you do know that you're walking towards 3 spirits, don't you?
Like, just directly towards them, out of this whole warehouse.
Yeah.
Just right to them.
Yeah. So, what about yourself for claircognizant?
That I would say is probably like my second dominant now. Before, no way. I could just see body language and, you know, people crying. I could see that. But now it's like, for me, that's how I hear people. So when we're doing readings and, you know, spirits are talking, that's how I hear it. So it's not like how we're talking. It's just a knowing of what they're talking about. That's how I hear, is through this modality.
Yeah.
So the next one is Clairolfaction, and that is like your sense of smell, sense of taste. Sometimes, you know, that could be an example. You walk in and you're in some space that, you know, you've never really been before, and then you smell your grandma, or you smell cooking that maybe a family member's done. That's like a way for your family member or the spirit to let you know, like, hey, I'm here, is when, like, you smell that.
Yeah, it seems like so many of our clients will be like, oh, when I smell this kind of cigarette, or when I smell cigar, I know my grandpa's around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is...
Or perfume, or... Yeah.
So that's that modality. I remember I was doing a little bit of work more, I was working remotely, so like in meditation, but working on behalf of someone else, and I just smelled apple pie cooking. It was so delicious. And so afterwards I went upstairs and I said to my sister, so did you make an apple pie?
So ready to dig into some apple
so
pie.
I was a little bit surprised, but no, she did not make an apple pie. But it was like so strong to me. I'm just like, gosh, an apple pie is cooking in the next room. Yeah.
Yum.
Then come to find out, the people I was working with, that was like one of their signature desserts for their family. Yeah.
So funny. I love that.
Yeah. So, Clairtangency. Do you want to talk about that? The sense of touch.
I think you should talk about that one, because you have the coolest story for that one. I don't have that one so much, but it's when you touch things and you have senses of the thing that you're touching, maybe where it came from, or what happened to it, or a memory connected to it, and like memory energetically. So touch on that. Cool story.
So this was, gosh, I don't know, maybe just 2 years ago. It wasn't too long ago. I was flying, I was traveling, and so I stepped onto the plane, you know, and as you step on the plane, I always touch the side of the plane. I mean, maybe just as I step into the plane, but anyway, I touched the side of the plane, and I was like, oh, a bird hit this plane. I thought, that's an odd thing to think, but I trust what comes up for me, you know. And so then I went and sat down and so on. And then a little bit later, we're just about ready to take off. And the pilot came on and said, oh, it's going to take a little extra time. We had to call the maintenance because when the flight came in, it got hit by a bird and we didn't realize it.
I don't think you guys understand how satisfying it is to have something confirmed for you. Because it's like, you know these things, but every once in a while you're like, especially when you're learning. For me, when I'm learning, I'm like, is this really what I feel? And then she'll confirm what I was thinking before I even say it. And I'm like, I knew it! I knew it!
Yeah. But even that, you know, when I touched the side of the plane and thought, oh, a bird hit this plane, I had the thought, well, that's an odd thought, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, when the pilot came on and gave that announcement, I thought, darn it, I should have mentioned something 20 minutes ago and we wouldn't be late.
Delayed. They would have been like, how do you know that? Oh man. Yeah.
So also I was going to talk about, so oftentimes I get, or all the time I get the information from really my sixth chakra. So the sixth chakra is about clarity. It's about clairvoyance, all these clair modalities we've talked about. So I'll have a little movie that just runs across my forehead, and I'm just watching this whole movie as when I'm giving someone a reading or doing a reading for someone. It's just, and I just tell them what I'm seeing. Or I'll find, it's like a little ticker tape, and it's just the words just print out. So I just read the words.
Yeah, that's really cool. Or when she was trying to teach me, before I just had the knowing of what was happening, I could never hear anything. So for me, it really felt like I struggled with that because I felt like I wasn't being of much help outside of being able to see. And so she would say too, like, ask them to write it down on a piece of paper. So that's another kind of way that you can see. So before I could hear, you know, maybe this didn't work for me, it works for others, but maybe you have them write it down, and that way you can actually see the paper that they're writing things down on. So, and it's like a muscle. I would really say that, like, these senses are like a muscle. If you use them and you practice them, not all of them, you're not gonna get all of them, but they really become much stronger tools to use when you practice them.
Yeah. And I think also, just as you were saying, just getting the information, it just seems like the information will come to you, and or the person will come to you. Oftentimes I might get a message and it's like, and I'm like, no, slow down. I'm in a body here. You're in a spirit, but I'm in a body. So spirits are at a higher vibration, you know, a lighter vibration. Where here in bodies, we're in a denser vibration. None of that is good or bad. It's just different, different shoe sizes. So oftentimes I'll have to say, okay, slow down, or write me a note so I can actually see what that is, what you're trying to get across to me. So, you know, or I'll keep asking them questions so I can really hone in on what they're trying to say. Yeah.
And I think the really cool, important part about having different modalities, and especially with the work that we do together, is that we really can confirm the things that are coming across based off of, like, how our different modalities work kind of paired with each other. And I think we can kind of segue into the next piece too, where we talk about how relationships are so important in the work that we do, and how different every reading kind of with the person we do is, and how we might have to shift and use different modalities to help somebody or to understand what they're kind of going through a little bit. I guess when I say different relationships, maybe we can talk about some different scenarios that, like, we've come across where maybe one thing would have worked with somebody, but it didn't maybe work with somebody else. So yeah. And oftentimes, so a couple of things. One is with the different relationships, it's just like in this realm, you know, we have all different family members and friendships and so on, and they're all different. And so it's the same on the other side. So that's why things kind of like, oh, okay, I'm learning something different from this person, or this is how they communicate. Right. And I think we see where our modalities really kick in strong is when people have passed from, like, some sort of traumatic experience, be it like an overdose or a car accident or something that happens really suddenly. That's when we really, I think, have to tap into the different forms of communication. Just like in real life, you know, I want to talk things out, and, you know, some people might need space, and I think that's kind of the same with the work that we do, especially in situations where things have happened quickly or traumatically. Sometimes people aren't ready to talk, or, you know, sometimes they just need us to be there with them. So. Or oftentimes they don't realize that they've died, so it's kind of talking them through that. Or they
are really angry about dying, or really sad, or really scared, and so it's just taking a couple minutes to, and our energetic technologies, like helping them ground and helping them realize that they're no longer living in this realm, and so it's kind of like almost a therapist, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, which I love.
She's a therapist.
Almost. 2 more years, then I'll be legal. I just do it for funsies. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But you're exactly right. That's why I think it's always so different when we work with them.
Yeah, and 2 signs. That's always really fun to see. Like, I remember we were doing a reading of a family member who passed away really quickly and really tragically, and I was sitting in my backyard and birds. Do you remember that? Yes. So many birds. We had birds, but like there was a lot of them, and I think the woman that passed away really loved birds, and so that was her way of. And I said something over the reading, and I was like, oh my gosh, like. There's so many birds. Like, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was distracting me how many birds there were. And the family just started laughing. They're like, oh my gosh, she loved birds and she had bird feeders. And so it's just so interesting. The work that we do is just so interesting.
Yeah. And for us, not to just be just with the person, but really do a 360 view. Like, what's happening? Oh, there's all these birds. Or my body's feeling this way. Or, odd things happen. Like, I was doing this work and a fox came walking through. It's just
the
like
random things.
Yeah, it's kind of the magic.
It is.
It makes it so much fun.
It does. It brings a lot of laughter out for sure. But yeah, so thank you for tuning
thanks.
in with us while we kind of explain all the different modalities and how they work for Shani and I and how they help as a really major tool for the work that we do.
So take care.
See you next time.